Title: The Werewolf with a Bad Hair Day. In the peaceful town of Willow Creek, there lived a young werewolf named Walter. Walter was a very nice werewolf. He did not howl too loudly at the moon. He always recycled, and he was careful not to track mud into the library. But Walter had one big problem. His fur was a complete and total disaster. Every month, on the night of the full moon, Walter would transform. His arms and legs would grow long, his nails would become claws, and a thick coat of shaggy brown fur would cover his body from head to toe. And every month, without fail, he would wake up the next morning looking like a furry tornado had hit him. His fur was not sleek and scary. It was a tangled, frizzy, knotted mess. Twigs, leaves, and the occasional lost button were permanently lodged in his coat. It stuck out in wild tufts in some places and was matted down flat in others. He looked less like a fearsome beast and more like a walking, talking dust bunny. The other monsters teased him. The vampires slicked back their hair and smirked. The witches cackled about his split ends. Even the friendly neighborhood ghost would float through him and say, "Ooh, so much static." Walter was tired of it. The biggest monster event of the year, the Howl-o-ween Ball, was coming up, and he did not want to be the laughingstock again. He had to do something. The day before the ball, Walter tried everything. He bought a giant bottle of super-strength shampoo for the modern monster. It made his fur very clean, but also very fluffy, adding 3 inches to his overall volume. He looked like a startled sheep. He tried using a rake to comb it out. This only created more tangles and pulled out several large clumps, leaving bald spots. He looked like a moth-eaten rug. He was sitting on a log in the forest, feeling utterly hopeless, when a tiny voice spoke up. "Excuse me, sir? You seem to be having some follicular difficulties." Walter looked down. A small, sleek squirrel was looking up at him, her head tilted. Her name was Sassy, and her own fur was perfectly glossy and neat. "You could say that," Walter sighed, a puff of loose fur floating into the air. "I am a hair disaster." "Nonsense," Sassy chirped. "You just need a professional. My family runs the best grooming salon in the forest, Acorn Acres Salon and Day Spa. We can fix you up." Walter was doubtful, but he was also desperate. He agreed. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Sassy was not alone. She called in her entire family. Dozens of squirrels swarmed over Walter. They did not use shampoo or rakes. They used their tiny, clever paws. Some squirrels worked as detanglers, patiently nibbling and picking apart the biggest knots with surgical precision. Others acted as stylists, using their sharp claws to trim and shape his fur into a more pleasing, streamlined silhouette. A team of chipmunks gathered soft moss and polished his claws until they shone. The birds brought him fresh berries to eat so he would not get bored. They worked through the afternoon and into the evening. Finally, Sassy held up a small, polished piece of bark for Walter to see his reflection. Walter could not believe his eyes. His fur was smooth. It was sleek. It lay flat against his body in a handsome, wavy pattern. Not a single twig or leaf was in sight. He looked powerful, dignified, and wonderfully well-groomed. "You look marvelous," Sassy declared, wiping her tiny brow. Walter was so happy he let out a small, polite howl of joy. "Aroo! Thank you. He hurried to the Howl-o-ween Ball, his confidence soaring. When he walked in, a hush fell over the room. The vampires stopped slicking their hair. The witches stopped cackling. They all stared in awe. "Walter, is that you?" gasped a mummy. "You look fantastic." "What is your secret?" asked a zombie, trying to smooth down his own patchy skin. Walter just smiled a fangy smile. "Good help," he said. He spent the whole night dancing, his sleek fur swishing gracefully. He was no longer the messy werewolf. He was the most stylish creature at the ball. And from that day on, every month, you could find Walter sitting on that same log in the forest, being preened and pampered by his friends at the Acorn Acres Salon and Day Spa. He learned that even a werewolf does not have to have a bad hair day, especially when you have friends with very good hands.